we have the footage.
And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. And we got Damsel Medic down there says that Brandon Joe Williams, we did a review with him a couple weeks back on a couple videos he did. And he's evidently live with James C. Lovett, another friend in the fight here and figuring out all these finance things. So we're going to check them out real quick first before we get started. And we have somebody in the back here. I'm going to pull up as soon as I get this up. Get back here. And we have Jason. How you doing tonight, Jason?
I am good, brother. I just had a chance to jump on here and say thank you.
Hey, all glory goes to him. Glad you're here. Great to join us. We're going to get into this because they're live right away, and then we'll just kind of take it from there, because if this is better than what I've got to present, which I'm pretty sure it might be, I'm just reviewing a video that I did a few years back on the selective service to help the gentleman figure out what the selective service is and how it really works. But we're going to go ahead and watch these guys instead. So the link is down there for anybody else that wants to join the panel here. And we're going to go over and watch these guys for a minute. And you guys just let me know if you want to stop it or anything.
Because if you show someone 8 U.S.C. 1408 and they start making excuses, you know at that point it's an emotional defense mechanism. Right. There ain't nothing. Yep. There ain't nothing you're gonna say that's gonna make any difference. You might as well just pack it up and go home. And it's beautiful because it's just like boom. You show them that, they freak out. You say have a good life and you dip. And what's funny is a lot of times when you say have a good life and you dip, they go, oh no, hold on. And then all of a sudden you can break that defensive mechanism by just doing an about face and bolting out of there. That's the only way you're ever going to get to these people. But what's funny is it's very toxic. If you get into a conversation like this and you start to hit them with these things and they're just doing their, mental gyrations and everything else, you're not dealing with a thinking mind. You're dealing with an emotional defense mechanism, and you're going.
Yes.
And I'm going to drop what he's talking about is 8 U.S.C. 1408, which is nationals, but not citizens of the United States at birth, which actually does have something to do, surprisingly, with the selective service, because that's where those numbers are assigned.
To lose. You're going to lose, and the more time you invest, the more you're going to lose. And that's what people don't get it. It's really sad because people want to help, and they want to help their friends and family, and they wind up on the ground crying, shaking, and sweating and dying because they're trying.
Notice the link he's got there is the Government Publishing Office Style Manual. Now, this is the manual that I found that Allmark in when it comes to the financial index down at the local courthouse here where I'm at. They used parenthesis, O, end parenthesis. And that itself is in the Publishing Office Style Manual, and it's called an Allmark in Section 2.
Trying to shift the mind of this individual, and it's never going to happen because you're not talking to the individual. You're talking to an emotional defense mechanism. That's the issue. And it's so sad because you really want to help this person, and it's a beautiful thing. And it gets twisted.
And what he's going to point out here is that the states are actually have their own nationalities. Each one of the states is a nation state. And that's why they ceded their jurisdiction to the United States, but they're still a nation state themselves and can withdraw from that at any point in time. Now, this is the same thing as the people of that are enumerated as such in those records, known as individuals. You can withdraw at any time as well. This is known as special drawing rights, and you do that by knowing the paperwork and drawing on the correct data elements on there, and that leaves you out of the contract. You have to qualify those signatures and do the documentation right, so you know what you're doing. pursuant to their job and the description of these documentations.
You know what I mean?
So this is one of the spots I like to use to get people to wake up, like the beginning breadcrumb. So here, this is just the styles manual.
And I'm going to, real quick here, this is James C. Lovett. I'm going to go ahead and grab his link and drop it down there as well for everybody. That way you can go check him out. I've known James on Facebook for a number of years as well. And again, another one that has comprehensive understanding of what's going on here. So go check him out. There's the link.
GPL Styles Manual 2016. And in the little search window, I'm going to type in the word Texan. Okay, so it's shorter.
Texan.
And it takes us down to nationalities, section 5.22 and 5.23. And it says here, now, first of all, if you look at the word nationalities, which is plural for the word national, then you break that down. It has the word nation in it. Then it has the word nati, which is for native. Okay, natural and native. So it says here, in designating the what? Natives of the states.
That's really sad. It's very confusing because if you look at 8 U.S.C. 1101.
So are you a citizen? Are you a resident? Are you a United States citizen? Are you an employee? Are you an individual? Do you live in the state of Iowa? Because that's an impossibility too. That's in the state of Iowa. It's just like the United States being located in Washington, D.C. It's the record. You can't live in the state of Iowa. The city is listed in the state of Iowa, but you'll never see it on the land. You won't go down anywhere and see it written on the land in any language. You'll see signs with posts on them, but that's not the bound of the city. The city, that's just an expression. Expression. They took it out of the record, which is fictional, and put it in the real world and plotted it out. That's employment. It's a plot. It's a ploy. It just means the same thing. And you've been employed.
In subsection A21, the definition of the word national, the word state is not capitalized. And it's funny because from my own experiences, diving deep into this, capital S for states is referring to the corporate versions of those states. So actually, this is actually incorrect. 5.23 should say in designating the natives of the states with lowercase s on the states.
So here's what I found out about that. Okay. And you know, I'm not saying it's verbatim, but in reading actually this manual, okay, it actually, when I looked up their definition of capitalization in the rules, it states that it says, due to antiquity, there are some interpretations, local customs, and etc. when it comes to the capitalization. This is what they said. Okay.
Of this specific word?
What's that?
You talking about capitalization in general or capitalization of the word state specifically?
In general, capitalization.
Oh, wow.
And see, what they're talking about here is exactly what I've been trying to help people understand for a number of years. What they're doing is they're using those various different grammar styles. And you have to realize this. This is, again, Isaiah 54:17. If you're going to rise up against the tongues that are placing false judgment against you, then you have to know what those judgments are by the language. You have to be able to follow, again, like Paul talks about, the switch in the jurisdictions. They do it left and right. Like I said, my last case 7 years ago, that possession charge, they styled the name 8 different ways.
Okay.
And so it says that some of the local customs may not apply because essentially what they're trying to do is they kind of give themselves a way out. And saying that, yeah, we might go upper, lower, upper and lower. We're not into that thing. So in reading this and then making a couple phone calls, now, and I could be wrong, but this is what they told me, is that the federal government is not operating under the jurisdiction of the UCC. They said from the federal level up, they're not operating under the UCC, but the states
Thank you,
these
damsel.
states do go by the UCC and they do understand.
Thank you, Keith. I had no idea that you would
They
actually pay attention.
But the federal government's saying that they don't work.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I pay attention.
I don't think that's.
I pay attention to everything, sister. Everything. And while we're on it, and while we're on it, I want to make a note again to everybody. You know, like I did at the end of last night's video, I got 8 more fucking emails today. People running their mouth about drama on panels. I'm not there anymore. I don't want to be there. I'm not the drama guy. I tried to bring information, and evidently that's not the place for me to be. It was told so, and that's why I'm no longer there. I can't be a bit non-bit. I'm not part of a drama. I'm trying to be as real as possible. This is the only place you're going to find it anymore. I might pop in on a panel here and there, but it probably most likely isn't going to be Paul, you know. So let's just leave me out of it. I don't want the emails. I don't want the drama. Please quit emailing me. If you have the information for me, I'm glad to accept it, but not about the drama. I appreciate the note about Brandon William here.
Well, I appreciate you following up on. I was enjoying his show, and he did actually talk about making each one of his straw mans for each state as a national. So he actually already covered that just before you started.
No, isn't that just fantastical? Here I am, the guy with 18 profiles based on the same thing. If you're going to protect yourself, you find different ways to protect yourself. What better way to protect yourself instead of be traveling from state to state, get pulled over, and not already have a preemptive identification already situated and known? This is to bring equity. If you want equity, you must first bring equity. So if you know you're going to be traveling around, and understand something else, folks, what's being exposed here, in case you don't understand, this is why I don't understand a passport. Okay? United States is the one that requires a passport, but all those other nations down below don't require a passport, do they? Because they're all involved in interstate and intrastate commerce. That's what they're about. So when he went around, and like Damsel said, and I'll have to go back and watch it, if he went around and placed a notice in each one of those states about his nationality, that seals the deal. That's diplomatic. He's already given his diplomatic notice. And remember, folks, this is what Article 1, Section 4, equal protection of the law among the states. So it's all in accordance with what's already set out. And we're just going forth and proving that. So again, thanks, Damsel. Let's get back to it. And of course, feel free to stop me anytime you got something to say. Just say pause.
Certainly.
It's true, whoever you spoke to, because every time I'm doing a lawsuit and I'm filing a lawsuit on negotiable instruments, it's always at the federal level. They won't even take it at the state level because negotiable.
Again, that's it. Negotiable instrument is in the name. The federal courts operate in personam. There is no reason that these state courts should be operating at all. That's the first element is they start naming names. That's in personam. Everything should be federal.
Instruments being accepted as legal tender. It's not a state. That's not a state situation.
Yeah.
It's not state of California accepts legal.
See what he's saying? If all of these instruments are financial instruments, and the United States is the only one that can lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, and mint and coin money, then what is it the states are issuing at an administrative level? Aren't they administrating instrumentalities of the United States? And again, this is 22 CFR 93.1, the diplomatic channels of notice. If the state makes a claim against somebody in the state, they don't care whether it's in the record as a resident or not. It must be qualified, and there must be a communication with the United States for them at the state level to use an administrative process in one of the courts of the United States. I don't care what kind of claim the state has, saying, well, this is the state of Iowa court. Yeah, and it's an administrative court in the state of Iowa, which is a contract under 48 CFR 52.212-5, implementing those statutes as such contracts to acquisition commercial items such as money, property, labor, or services. Except you're not allowing for the credit side. You're using a debit side and making demands. This is so far out of line with what the law actually says. I don't see why people aren't rising up against it. This is why I get so passionate. To me, it is that simple. These people have no authority to press charges against you, knowing that you're a foreign entity and they must have diplomatic channels of notice in order to serve you. That means they must request permission to use the court against you as a United States citizen or as a foreigner, either one. They must know the capacity in order to be able to bring the right claim. Anything on that, damsel?
No, that's exactly what he was talking about, and that's why he said he was moving to putting himself as a national of every state, so that they just don't have the jurisdiction over him that way too, and he can bounce from one to another if he needs to.
Yep. And I don't know that I'd claim national of all the states. I know I'd claim national of the state, the Republic of Iowa, but notice that the treaty extends to that level. Yeah. Therefore, it's uniform throughout all jurisdictions. That would be applicable enough, but I would still go ahead and give everybody notice of that.
Right. That's exactly what he's planning on doing. I guess he hasn't completely moved on that, but he started to. So that's his next thing, because he sees that as the ultimate of protections. So, yep. But he also was talking earlier about how they can never change any of this stuff because the promissory notes, they can't change it.
Right, because they have no way of actually paying
to do it.
Yeah, they have they have no actual way of paying.
Well, and he says it's like their biggest goal. It took them 100 years to get the 1972 to get the gold standard removed and make it so it was all what it is now. And they'd have to burn everything, and they'd lose all the protections and rights that they know that they have. So yep. He's actually very hopeful that they'll either burn it all or they won't, because they got to keep it for what they have.
Well, yeah, that's what was being said. He was speaking on earlier, is that once you go so far down the road, it's not really worth it anymore. But they have no other recourse. It's exactly the only thing they can do.
Yeah, it's burn it, or push an ultimate button and blow it all up, or keep it because they're going to have to. It's so ingrained at this point.
Legal
he's talking about everything.
Doesn't it's
yeah, he's very expansive.
It's a federal mandate,
and that's because
so
it is. The topic itself.
I don't know who you spoke to, but I actually don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all.
I think what their interpretation of the person who told me, and obviously I don't make it verbatim what I hear from anybody, so I do my own thing. I think what they're trying to say is the federal government itself is not operating under the UCC, but that they enforce the UCC.
They probably have a lot of their own statutes and things, like, for example, 18.
And let me explain the UCC then. The UCC itself is a morphing set of commercial principles that are legislated at the state level, okay? And they're just basically the contract terms and conditions legislative-wise, and that is congruent and, again, uniform throughout all jurisdictions. So it's the international contract terms and conditions. This is why we look at Incoterms. Incoterms is what when I read Incoterms, I realized that's what's happening is they're subjugating the insurance onto the bottom guy, who is supposed to be the benefactor and not required to do anything, particularly perform financially through instrumentation. And so I started screaming about that years ago when I read that, because I knew it was all about contracts. So I started at the top and started learning about contracts at the International Forum. That's in fact how I ran across the 48 CFR 52.212-5. Again, it is uniform throughout all jurisdictions. Evening, Russ. How you doing tonight?
Good. Yourself?
I am well.
Greetings, Damsel.
Greetings, Russ.
All right, let's get back into it then.
USC 8 obligations and other securities of the United States. I mean, it's pretty simple and pretty clear that it's a federal mandate about what is legal tender, what is not. You have 12 USC 411. I've seen literal Federal Reserve documents on the Federal Reserve website. You can probably type it in and look for it for a while. That will say in black and white, they're saying that lawful money has never been fully defined by the U.S. government. They say that in their own circulars, right? Which is totally insane and not true. Yes, the corporation has never defined lawful money, but lawful money was defined a long time ago.
Correct.
It's gold and silver coins, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. But the thing is that the situation is they can say,
and they morphed that definition today. Like you said, 1972, they finalized that gold clause, and they also changed certain definitions. And when you go through and look at the Black's laws, you'll find out the newer definitions and the newer additions. That's what they're going by. And again, that's case law. That's not legislated law. Again, it's just opinion. It is not law. These people are not administrating law.
say we don't follow the UCC by taking all of the UCC points, creating their own.
They're actually, like I said, administrating the policy, which is the thing. It's the paperwork. That's all they're doing. They have no authority to even talk about you. That's a communication about a debt. Did you consent? Did you give them a handwritten statement of consent? Did you give the state bringing a case against you handwritten consent to communicate about a debt?
Statutes and not saying that it's officially the UCC has been adopted by the federal government.
Of course not.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
they haven't really officially adopted the UCC, but then you go in.
Right, because again, the states have. And what happens again, the states in their contracting, if a state comes up with a contract that is superior to all the other states, generally the other states, again, for equal protection of the law among the states, will take advantage of that clause and accept the new contract clause as being superior because evidently it's got more benefit or something. And so then they'll start implementing that throughout the states. Now, once 23 states or more have that particular legislation for that new contract clause in their statutes, now they can go to the federal government and request to have it applied through the federal government as well as a supporting legislation. But again, it originates in the states. The states are their own nation states.
You go into the United States Code and you can find bits and pieces of all UCC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 all over the place.
Exactly.
You piece it all together, and it is the UCC.
Like you and me know exactly what they're doing. They're playing the gray area. But see, because it's not clearly defined, then that, my friend, is also then where you can use it against them because everything that they do has to be clearly defined. And if it's not, you can bang them with it. So that's why I tell people, no matter which way they run, if you know how to interpret the evidence or information that they're giving you, you can always use it against them. If they have it defined, it wasn't defined clear enough. If they don't have it defined, it wasn't defined clear enough for it to be used. So you can't go after me for those things because you don't have a clear definition of it.
And that's the beauty of the whole thing. Is the whole thing is not only do they not have clear definitions, is they don't want to define. If you bring up the fact that the word state is capitalized,
and see, that's again, because the grammar and everything, when we start identifying the grammar, what it means in the different venues, that's why they don't want it brought up. That's why they don't want to answer that kind of stuff. And that is why it's so important to have a list of definitions so you clarify. Like I said, in the lease or rental agreement that we recently signed between my companion and I and the landlord, we put our own set of definitions in there. We amended it ourselves so it was comprehended, and there was an agreement that rental agreement means credit agreement. So it is a device, a federal instrumentality administrated through the estate or through the state for acquisitions of equal consideration and equal benefit. And we are not part of the contract, but we accept the equal benefit so long as you give equal consideration to our credit and not your money telling us we have to go out and work for that money to give it back to you for this agreement. We already have credit. It's a quid quo pro. You wouldn't have your administrative capabilities over the thing, which is the contract, without the enumeration and the naming at the federal level. See, it's a United States citizenship. So we have to realize these states are operating malfeasance of trust is what I call it. And you can accuse them of that if you have evidence. But again, it's not about making accusations. It's about knowing that that's what they're doing and correcting it by correcting the records that are wrong. They operate on that record, the in rem.
Everywhere except a.
So correct that language, the name and the enumeration, so it's clarified.
USC 1101 subsection A21 and certain areas of Title 8, when they're referring to the possibility that could be domestic or foreign nations, they don't capitalize the word state. Well, why is that? Everywhere else you guys capitalize it. If you click on the word state, even the lowercase version of the word state, it goes to the capital definition. The lowercase s in state is very, very clearly used in specific circumstances in Title 8, but it is completely undefined. It was a huge red flag for me.
And because it's lower s, that means it's not specifically defined. So instead of being in the state of Iowa, I'm in the state of mind that the state of Iowa is nothing but the record. Now you have the two separate uses of the state, one of them being capitalized and specifically defined, and the other one lowercase. Oops. That's where you get to define your own. When you see words that are already capitalized, you have to find out what they're meaning by those. That's their definition, and by capitalizing it, they're giving you a clue that, hey, this has a specific definition. It's special.
On purpose. It's done that way on purpose. It's so amazing because they're actually very, very clear and very, very open about a lot of things. The only area that they really try to hide is the definition of the term United States and the capital S state versus the lowercase s state.
Yep.
Those are the ones that they just, you can tell, they're just like, we are burying these fuckers. And that's the end of the story. But everything else, I've never seen them try to hide anything else. I mean, really almost nothing. Those are the only things I've ever been like, wow, they are like really not want to talk about this. So yeah,
we know what they're doing. We know exactly why they're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've had some victories in multiple states because a lot of them by their own code do not have, this is a gem drop here for those people who don't know, they don't have a clear definition of the base word drive. Now we know it's in, and this is on the states themselves websites. If they don't have it on there, I mean, how are you going to?
Yeah, and that's another thing. See, if they don't have it on there, if the state doesn't have a definition, then your only thing to go to is case law, which is Supreme Court decisions through any state or the United States, which is still relative to the United States. So you have to go to the United States definition.
Go after me for said things in concerns to the word drive or driver
for their intents and purposes. Because if you want to drive a nail into a piece of wood, you use a hammer and not a pedal.
And you don't have a clear definition.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is driving can be considered a number of things. In the medical field, I can drive a screw into a bone or drive a needle if I'm driving a horse or a cart. I mean, there's just so many uses of the word.
Well, yeah,
How do you
that's
define
why,
it?
yeah, that's why I say you need to get a thesaurus and look through a thesaurus and see what's going on, because it's the same thing with many other things, such as vehicle. Drive a vehicle. You were caught driving a vehicle, really, because a vehicle is any mode of conveyance. Therefore, that piece of paper is a vehicle. My voice is a vehicle. My fingers, when I say thank you in sign language, that's a vehicle. It's a
Well, we call it
conveyance.
a vehicle, even in a drug sense use. We consider it a
Yes.
conveyance or a vehicle to get something into the body.
Your
So
blood
there you
is
go. Again,
your blood is a vehicle to transport oxygen. What's driving that? My spirit, my breath, everything together. Why would you try to stop that driving?
Mm-hmm. And also, most of the states are all just subcorporations of the United States. I mean, really,
Exactly. Yep.
the state codes are just federal codes that, like in California, they're lazy. Like they almost nothing in California code is any different than federal code.
So what's that tell you, folks? Again, that's at 48 CFR 52.212-5. Contract terms and conditions required. This is what tells you that the state is going to match the federal. In order to acquisition anything, the contract terms and conditions are supposed to be the same. So what we're talking about here is if the state doesn't have a definition of driver, you have to go to the federal. The term is already there. It's already done. Everything's already contracted. All you have to do is know where it's at and what it means.
Yeah.
I've seen some states where they do a teeny tiny little itty bitty, and it almost seems like they did it just to say that it's a little different. Oh no, it's not federal. You know, it's almost like they just do it because no, it's not federal. Like that's like the only.
And I'd like to make a point here. I've done a lot of study on this over the last 7 years, and I'm not trying to say, my message is not that you have to go out and do all the things I've done. What I've done is going to help escalate it. What Charles C. Lovett's doing and all these guys are doing is going to escalate it. And it's going to escalate through people like myself. They're going to help teach you the basics. The basics. And again, I've done all this research. I've not taken any of those steps because I want to make sure I can show you the basics through a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That way you can start implementing it in your own family structures, teaching your younger generations and even your older generations to help them get out of their retirement homes and things like that. Sickening.
Reason why they did it. They're like, well, you just change this one word here, change one word here, and like, boom, now we got state code, and like now it's like totally different, totally not federal anymore. You know, I think Idaho is the only one I've ever seen that was like chaos. I was like, what the heck? But almost anything else, it's pretty much the same as the federal, honestly.
The only one I've ever seen. Well, let me take that back. That's the UCC I was thinking of.
And again, and notice that just as I was getting ready to say it, he says UCC. The law is uniform throughout all jurisdictions. So I don't care if it's state code, U.S. code, Idaho code, international code. It's all uniform. And it all comes from the Most High first. It trickles down. As it trickles down, it seems to mean less and less. And that's the problem.
Oh, never mind. I was going to say is I think Louisiana, they're UCC because they deal with,
in my opinion,
Napoleonic law, and they have their own adopted version similar to the UCC, but it's not.
Yeah, Napoleonic law. That's Louisiana. If you remember, the Louisiana Purchase was when Napoleon was losing the war, and so he needed to fund his war, so he sold off that big chunk of land. But he remained in that selling off of that land. He contracted in there that it was to remain under Napoleonic law. It's a different common law. They don't go by counties; they go by parish. All the other states go by counties, but Napoleonic law is a slightly different, even in the common law. But it doesn't matter. It's all merged with equity. Equity is the way to get out of their multiple jurisdictions and remain at common law.
The UCC.
I think Montana is like that too.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I heard there was another place.
I know it's like one other state. I think it could be Montana, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because they want. It's called. I mean, come on, I'm not even trying to hide it. It's called the Uniform Commercial Code. Like it's not called the. The whole point of the UCC is to be uniform. They want the infinite money. They want that UCC3 to work everywhere.
Yeah.
They want those negotiations.
And it's code, not law. Code and not law.
Instruments to work everywhere.
It's just like a program, a computer code. When you're programming, it's an if-then go-to set of contract clauses, and you can swap them out and change them around and use various different ones according to various different situations. That's all it is.
Because that is their bread and butter. That is their infinite money machine. And if anybody believes that they're going to get rid of UCC3 or not have UCC3 or pretend as though they don't have UCC3, or if they don't have UCC3, they're not going to use some other statement that's exactly the same as UCC3. It's just not called UCC3. If you believe in any country, I'm starting to get to the point now where in any country, if you believe that they don't have that, they wouldn't want that, or they're just going to change the rules, you got an emotional issue. And you need to get away from the books and you need to go look in a mirror and go for a walk, because it's got nothing to do with the UCC. It's got to do with you.
Yep. This is where I'm going to reiterate it one more time. It's a matter of realizing everybody is making mistakes. Everybody is doing it wrong. So while you're sitting there pointing the finger at them saying they're doing it wrong, you evidently don't understand you're doing it wrong too. And that's the first thing to fix. And when you find out that you fixed that, they learn. They learn that there's a different way. Hey, this guy just did that, and I've never seen that done before. Police pulling somebody over alongside the road. He's already got a nationality, and he calls it in, and he's got nationality in all 50 states. What a wonderful concept. Never heard of it before. It's time to start creating your remedies. It's about learning how to see your own effects from your own intuition and your own intellect. And that means you've got to get out of your emotions. Stay out of the drama. It's not about drama. It's about reason and logic and Socratic. Being Socratic is the best thing you can be when it comes to bringing equity. You've got to be able to put the emotions aside and say, no, thanks. That's not going to do me any good. But I do have an idea, an opposing dynamic where it would benefit both of us. You have to learn how to be creative and start learning your talents. Again, you can feed a man for a day if you give him a fish. Feed him a lifetime if you teach him to fish. But the true underlying principle is that everybody start teaching, sharing their talents. Because if you sit on your talent, you did nothing but waste, and he doesn't appreciate that. And I think I used the correct term there, appreciate.
A little bit harsh, but that's pretty much, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with this. UCC3, if you find some place that it ain't there, it'll be there real soon, or they just don't care because it's some small insignificant situation that they just, like Montana, where the population of Montana is extremely low. It's like they don't care.
Yeah.
If you think anyone's going to come along and try, you want to know the fastest way to get a bullet in the back of your head when you're walking down the street? Try to remove UCC3 from California law. You and your whole family will be dead in less than 24 hours. Guaranteed.
Yeah, you're not playing with their bread and butter.
They'll wipe out your bloodline. They'll murder everything that you've ever. They'll murder your cat in front of you. and then kill you and then hang you off your balcony. There's no way. There's no way UCC3 is ever going anywhere.
Yeah, they're not getting rid of their foundation. That's all they have. That's literally their everything and their all.
Yep. And the only way UCC3 is going anywhere is the big red button. That's the only
And he's
way
talking about negotiable instruments.
Anywhere, or even being adjusted. You guys think it's going to be adjusted? Oh no, it ain't going to be adjusted at all. It's just this, or what we got now.
And I wonder who would be the person to touch that button, or persons. That's the room I wouldn't mind peeping in on.
Yeah. Well, you have the big, huge international bank that produces the UCC. You know, the UCC is a copyrighted piece of you know, it's copyrighted. Who owns the UCC? It's like some Swedish bank that made it. Who wrote the UCC? Let's see here.
And this is relative to the Treaty of Bern, Switzerland, and all that. Somebody writes something, and they have that copyright trademark. So whoever wrote it has a foundational value system relative to themselves that the rest of the world is following.
I remember seeing it one time. It was like the Uniform Commercial Code. I'm looking at it here. History. National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws in 1945. I could have sworn it was from a might take me a minute to find this, but it's not an American thing.
No, there was Americans a part of it when they adopted it, but yeah, it's not an American thing.
And one of the things to remember about that UCC while we're talking about with this copyright stuff, that's Article 9. That's a security interest. So that's what we're talking about is, again, that literary and artistic protection.
That stuff isn't. If you look up, even the Black Laws Dictionary is not American.
Yeah. I can't find it super fast, but anyways, if you do that little history search on where the UCC comes from, it's and then you'll say to yourself, it'll say on there, oh, UCC is only American. Well, yeah, but it's the same thing everywhere else. They just call it something different. It's the same thing.
Yep.
It's the same playbook. It really is. If you think there's not negotiable instruments in other countries, you're.
Oh, they do it around the world. I mean, I get people from all over, and they tell me it's the same thing. It's just a different name. So it's the same game they're playing everywhere. It's just they call it something different so that it suits the local people,
Yep.
But it's the same game. It's literally they're converting nations and land into corporations, people into corporate legal persons, all across the whole thing. That's the game.
And the beauty of that is we don't need to learn. I was scared at first. I was like, my God, if it's this complicated in America, I can't imagine starting over from zero and having to learn India, for example, right? But it actually has a huge alleviation, in my opinion, to learn that it is the same game everywhere. That's a really beautiful thing. I mean, it's actually really relieving to hear that, because I was learning that too as the years progress, and it's like, wow, thank God, because it's like, was it going to take me 4 years per country to learn, how to work all this, And the answer is no. You learn one and you got them all. It's like Pokemon, man. You catch them all here and you got them all everywhere. You know what I mean?
Because it's uniform throughout all jurisdictions, including foreign jurisdictions. That's how they duped you into doing what you've been doing, because the jurisdictional language is so close. Same with when you go to foreign countries, you're going to be able to find out that those contract clauses are almost identical, just in a different language, so that when you read them out, oh yeah, that's this in English.
That's it. Once you know the core of the game, it's the names of the pieces. Say if you change around all the names of the pieces on the chessboard, it's still the same thing. You still know the moves. You still know which ones do what. All you have to do is just call it a new, whatever the local language is on the king or queen or pawn or rook or whatever. It's the same game. That's it.
You look in the definition section, and if you know how the game is played here, or you go someplace else, you look at the definition section, and you'll be able to piece it together like that.
Oh, let's see who's that. See, Mr. A6 is out there. He said he wants to talk about gold backs.
Hey, I got some right here. Check it out.
6, you trying to jump in? I sent you a link. Jump in if you want to get in.
Check it out. I just bought some myself.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've been seeing those pop up a lot more lately. Yes, yes.
Now, for right now, these gold backs, this is what they're talking about, coming back to the new currency and being backed by gold and everything. I think this is more of a gig than anything. Look at the smile on his face. Love him though. But that's that materialistic gratitude and things like that, pride and all that, which is okay to a certain degree. You know, I'm not going to dig on him for it, but we've got to remember the ethereal difference is the merits. The merits of the action, again, go to teaching. Make sure other people learn this stuff and learn it for what it's truly worth and not the materialistic whistles and bells and all that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I have tons of silver coins and all sorts of things all over the place, and I just and I subscribe to a lot of Instagram, like HA Auctions, I believe it's called HA Auction, which is a sweet Instagram, by the way. It's an auction where they buy and sell really unique currencies. They have like old territorial currencies. They've got all sorts of craziness, and they've got ratings, and they go on there and they talk about the currencies and they talk about the history of silver certificates and gold certificates. And I think it's called HA Auction, and it's literally an auction. It's not even anything that we do. It's just they just collect and sell currencies. HA currency, Heritage Auctions currency, and they got colonial currency and just all sorts of really wild stuff. And it's all paper currency. And I recommend that everyone subscribe to this particular Instagram because it's cool to see all these different, so many. I mean, dude, way beyond anything I've heard anybody talk about. So many different types of currencies and fascinating things. And
there's a link to their site right there in the chat.
I mean, I have like all sorts of different things and a $2 bill here and gold pieces and all this craziness because I feel like I want to know, you know what I mean? Like I want to know and I want to see all of it and I want to see all the different variations over the years. And it's all about immersion. You know, it's like an immersion knowledge. You know, you immerse yourself in currency and paper currency and structure and negotiable instruments and all this kind of thing. And if you really want to learn it, that's how you learn it. You immerse yourself in it, you know. So but yeah, gold backs are cool. I think they're cool. I think they are very smart. I like their marketing a lot. Yeah. They've actually partnered with Tuttle Twins, and they partnered with just Tuttle Twins really, which I think Tuttle Twins is absolutely brilliant. They do children's books, but they're like,
yeah, if you guys know the Tuttle Twins, it's a couple children, and they do videos, and they put out some pretty decent information. But of course, it's educationally guided by mom and dad. I think they do an excellent job in doing so. But it's done by a couple little children. I think that will enhance their education. I think these twins will be quite the adults when they grow up, and you should probably check them out. I don't watch them all the time, but I've seen them, and they do some good stuff.
Highly intelligent children's books that talk about like actually important things, and they even have like cartoons and stuff now, and like little TV shows about, you know, democracy versus republic and all this. It's actually really cool. It's not like what we teach. It's not like on that level, but it's like one big step down from there, but like one big step up from like mainstream, right? Yeah. And they mean well, and they do care a lot, and it's cool. I like, you know, you can tell like, are they just effing around, or do they really mean, you know, what they're doing? And Tuttle Twins and Goldbacks and so that they really mean what they're doing. They're very serious. I mean, if we want to go purist, you know, we're going to go gold, silver coins, like some Zelda type stuff, you know, with little baggies. If we want to go all the way, I mean, that's what we're going to have, right. You know, which I'm totally fine with that. So.
And again, because it's a materialistic holding that you can have, most people are going to be awesome with that, particularly since, again, it's a materialistic thing of gold or silver over the lifetime of a piece of paper that represents that gold or silver. That's what most people want to get back to, is that materialistic thing. Again, I urge you to think about the merits.
Well, it just depends on what people want to do. I'm fine with either way. I mean, you know, you can walk around with a bunch of tiny little 1 gram silver coins and you can buy practically anything because the buying power is so high. So, you know, it doesn't really, you know, you buy a whole house with, you know, a small, very heavy pouch filled with large silver coins, but you know, the buying power is so big that you just have a pouch this big filled with silver coins, and it's like, you know, you just kind of hand it over like that. You know, it's kind of like the old leprechauns and stuff. You know, it's kind of like, so, you know.
Well, I figure we'll probably run another, you know, 10, 15 minutes. We're almost at 2 hours. So if you, Brandon, if you want to like field some questions in the comments section, I think
Sure, yeah.
Michelle wanted to say something. Make sure that, you know, well, I guess we can, when we finish up, you can let everybody know where you're at, where they can get a hold of you, find out more information.
Sure.
Yada, yada, yada. So yeah, feel free to either.
Well, we already know where to get a hold of him and everything, but we're going to go ahead and listen to this answer question session. I think this is going to be good. We've got at least, I don't know this Mike, the Sultan guy, but I know Charles Lovett and Brandon here, and I think the questions would have some excellent, distinct answers from these guys. A lot better job than I do. Let's put it that way.
Field any of the questions, and then we'll kind of move around from there.
I think on my end, the questions and answers is disabled. I'm on the StreamYard.
Oh, that's.
It was coming up like a whole lot, and it was like crazy, and then I think you turned it off because it like closed down.
Oh, I might have hit something to turn, probably from distracting people. I don't know why
it was very distracting. That's why I think you were sitting there and you like leaned forward and clicked something, and I was like kind of like relieved. I was like, oh, good, because it was just like going crazy. It was like,
yeah, all right.
Not at all. I could care less about a TA account. What people don't realize is that the electronic online Brandon Joe Williams, principal in all caps. They flagged the account, locked the account, made me point at myself. I don't have an SSN. I just put my hands up. You don't have an SSN? No. How? How is that possible? I was born in a barn. Really? Born in a barn, and I just never got one. And are you going to get benefits when you get older? I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, you're paying into that thing your whole life, and then what? You get scraps from the government. That $600 paycheck that you're going to get from SS services when you're 65 isn't going to be worth an effing thing. I mean, why do you? You're right. I go, inflation's so bad. I mean, why would you even want that? By that point, they're like, dude, I want to get rid of my SSN. How do I do it? So for me, it's really easy. And again, kind of like what James was talking about. You know, at the end of the day, bro, charisma is always going to be senior to any paperwork or any laws or any USC or anything. You got charisma, you can do anything. You can walk through.
Still access your TDA though, and like all your assets and whatnot. Like because to create the TDA account, you got to give your corporation information.
So the TDA account requires you to sign under penalty of perjury that you are a U.S. person. So the way I signed mine was without prejudice by Williams, Brandon Joe, agent.
Are we muted?
Oops, my apologies. I'm bad at that. I am very bad at that. I urge everybody to pay attention to what he said there when it comes to charisma. I'm not the greatest at it because my passion seems to get out of range at times, but I am growing and I am getting better at it. And that's what it's all about, folks, is a progress. It's a growth. And everybody has a different growth rate according to the different things they're learning. Some excel at others and they're rather slow at some things. So it's a matter of just progressing forward and getting out of the emotions. And I believe you me, I understand how hard that can be.
For Brandon Joe Williams, comma, principal in all caps. They flagged the account, locked the account, made me notarize the document. I notarized the document, the authorization document, in the exact same way, mailed it in. 5 months later, I get an email saying that, we have the right to, not open up an account if we feel that the account are being opened for any weird, nefarious reasons. It appears as though you're trying to open the account for weird and nefarious reasons, so we're not going to open up your account. Now, the thing is, though, is that I've looked into this a little bit. I haven't done anything with TSA accounts, nor do I even care to. It's not required at all to do anything with remittance to have a TDA account at all. I could care less about a TDA account. What people don't realize is that the electronic online TDA account is actually considered a convenience account. You don't need any approval from the Treasury to mail hard copy paperwork to the Treasury to get any sort of TDA related services done via snail mail. The TDA is actually, there's two different versions of the TDA. There's the normal one, which you have whether you signed up or not, it doesn't matter. And then
Muted again?
So what we're talking about here is that definitive paper form through a regular TDA account that was already set up through the enumeration at birth. That's the documentation that has to come out first. Mom has to sign things. And what they're doing is they're creating a system where they can enter it in electronically, take electronic signatures, and save on the paperwork. Okay? So they're slowly converting everything to an electronic system to cut down the use of paperwork. And when we think about the electronic system, we can take that one documentation in setting up a local trust account with a bank and have them, you put that in there as a special deposit with its letter of instruction through the TDA for all of your discharging. And that way, all you do is you send your bills to your local bank and boom, they take care of everything. They're the trustee. They're the ones that are supposed to be making these transfers. And you can set it up electronically so that all you got to do is send your bill to the bank.
and they have the electronic one. The electronic one is the only one they can deny access to. So I don't really care. I mean, I'll just mail them some stuff in a registered parcel, and they have to do it. And if they don't, I'm going to litigate. So I don't really care much about the TDA. They didn't give me the TDA, and I don't really care much to pursue it right now, to be honest with you.
What's going on, A6, young cousin? Introduce yourself and welcome to the platform. We got about 15, 20 minutes, then we're going to shut it down, but jump in, tell everybody who you are and say what's up to the guests, and just jump on in. The water's fine.
Word. Yeah, I've been watching y'all for like the last 45 minutes. My man Brandon is cooking over here, man.
Thank you.
He got the Crisco, man. He out here cooking. Yo, A6 grind time. You already know who I am, man. A foreign national, born natural. You know what I'm saying? I haven't been live in like the last couple of weeks. I took the last 2 weeks off. This shadow banned me something crazy, dude.
Hey, as somebody who got their channel taken down and boarded up when I went to get in it when I first started doing this, that's why I be real easy. I put it out there, but make sure you education.
Man, I got to a point now where I literally don't even talk about like stuff like this that much because it got so bad. They started pulling videos down too. Like I got like 2 notifications in the last 3 weeks that they pulled 2 videos down, and these are videos I did like 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And so and the videos are disappearing. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Yeah, man. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. And as far as the negotiable instruments and things of that nature, what I tell people all the time is one of those things where even if you have the codes and stuff like that on point, you might have to hold these people's feet to the fire because there's so many people that tell them they're going to pursue litigation and don't actually do it. You know what I'm saying? So if they don't endorse an instrument or something, if they don't properly apply an instrument to an account, they just keep.
And I don't suggest still going into any kind of litigation, you're not qualified to go into those administrative courts. You have to come in through a sovereign port, and that's the federal government, through diplomatic channels of notice. Diplomatic channels of notice are private notices. You remain on the private side at all times. Just keep going up the chain. My recommendation, not legal advice.
Keep it and act like you didn't send it and still send you a bill. You know, you might have to actually take them to task. So it's not as simple as just sending them an instrument. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of those things where, you know, you really have to follow through. It's the same thing with any of these processes. Even when you exercise your right to travel and these people are violating your rights, you know, taking your stuff. You know, you really have to play defense, you know, get the case dismissed or null prost in some cases, and then you got to go after them in the higher court. You know what I'm saying? And it's all really about standing on your rights.
Sorry to interrupt. Hello, how are you? Should I still follow the administrative process? Because with the new corporation that it was sold to, this is the first communication that I sent to them. I sent a notice of tender of payment acceptance and the power of attorney, granting them the right to transfer the principal balance of the account, principal account for the principal name. From what I'm hearing, you guys, I'm all new to this, so this is like all information overload. So I sent them that, and then they sent a letter saying, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We take this matter seriously. We'll respond back by March 7th. Then they said, our records indicate that such association is the current owner of the load as requested, but that's not what I requested. I requested them to access the funds and discharge the lien, you know. And then another communication that came today actually shows that an individual by them is a dedicated loan specialist, and her job is to help you if you fall behind on the mortgage payment. So is this like a distraction? Should I go directly to the litigation, or should I send them a note or communication, or opportunity to cure or whatnot, with more laws before I do that? Or what is the next move? What is I hate to ask that question because every matter is situation. Most
people say you're supposed to send in 3 times, the first time, the second time, third time, blah 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 blah, all this stuff, and it all comes from UCC3. You can do that. I don't do that. I don't see there's any point in that. You've decided on a process you want to use. You've issued your orders. They have openly defied legal, lawful orders. That's the end. There is no second time, third time, 10th time, 20th time, change the process, jump over here. I'm not going to put on a wizard outfit and pull out my Ouija board trying to, pour out.
Right to transfer the principal balance of the account, principal account for the principal name. It's like all information overload. So I sent them that, and then they sent a letter saying, "Thank you for attention. We take this matter seriously. We'll respond to the owner of the load as requested." The lien, you know. And then another communication that came today, opportunity to cure or whatnot, with more laws before I do that. Or what is the next move? What is I hate to ask that question because every matter is situation. Most
people say you're supposed to send in 3 times, the first time, the second time, third time, blah 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 blah, all this stuff, and it all comes from UCC3. You can do that. I don't do that. I don't see there's any point in that. You've decided on a process you want to use. You've issued your orders. They have openly defied legal, lawful orders.
You understand that? What he's talking about here is they gave an instrumentality. They offered it. And when they offered it, you accepted it. That's supposed to be a good faith deal. When you see things in there that are not a good faith, and you correct them, amend them, whatever, and give them back, and they refuse, now they're acting in bad faith. Now you can accuse them. Very big difference. Again, I don't recommend that. I would let them know of the accusation and that I'm just going straight over their head.
That's the end. There is no second time, third time, 10th time, 20th time, change the process, jump over here. I'm not going to put on a wizard outfit and pull out my Ouija board trying to, pour out some kind of powder, trying to, say some kind of incantation, hoping that, the poltergeists of my ancestry will.
And a lot of times what's happening there, folks, if you don't understand 18 U.S.C. 1589, they are forcing you by non-acceptance to do other things. They're using the legal law. They're using they're using the legal or lawful system under their interpretation, their opinions, their emotions, instead of understanding the intent of the law and going by that through a moral compass. I'm just doing my job.
Fly into the payment officer's bedroom window at night and whisper in their ear they should process the documents of Brandon Joe Williams. I'm going to go to litigation. That's where I'm going to go. Now, just so you guys know, by the end of this year, I plan on developing an entire, just like my free contract killer course, I'm going to make a whole new course, which will be free, and it's going to be the pro se litigant course. And I'm going to be explaining mindset, how to write a complaint, how to structure a complaint, how to move the court into discovery, how to bang on someone in discovery, and then how to close out and win the case, and then how to get the payment or orders or compel the court to order the defendant to follow the orders of which you have originally. All you're doing in a courtroom, all you're doing in litigation is you're saying, this is how it works. You've decided on a process. You write up the orders. You're not a dick or an asshole or in some way doing something to where no one will listen to you. That's not going to be good because no one's going to listen to you. Just real simple orders. You've sent in your orders. Now they've defied your orders. Okay, no problem. Now we're going to go into litigation. Now in litigation, all you're saying in litigation is I issued these orders. I got some kind of really illogical response or defiance against my orders. They're lawful orders. They will get completed, and I'm asking the court for assistance in enforcement to get my lawful orders completed. And all you're doing is just either getting them to look at the orders, getting them to understand the orders, or reissuing the orders. That's all you're doing during litigation. You're just bringing up the orders again and again and again and again. I want these orders completed. I want these orders completed. I want these orders completed. What don't you understand about my orders? Well, I can clarify that with you. Okay, now that's clarified. I want my orders completed. I want my orders completed. I want my orders completed. That's all litigation is. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, I think he was talking about the administrative process in terms of sending something 3 times and then doing notice.
Yes.
Notice, what is it? A notice of default and opportunity to.
Yes, private administrative process.
Trying to get a default judgment for non-response.
Relief, remedy, and cure.
But yeah, like I said, there's more than one.
Private administrative process. First time you send a notice in, letting them know that you require relief. They're supposed to relieve you, and if they don't, that means they're not coming forth with a remedy to do so. So now you have to write them a second time with remedy. If you provide them a remedy and they don't provide cure, now you give them a third notice for cure. If they violate that, now you've got a final judgment because they denied it 3 times. Matthew 18, verse 15 through 8, or 15 through 20.
Ways to skin a cat with this type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Mikkel, do you want to share? You don't have to, because obviously this is a public platform, so you might get emails forever. But if you want to share your email, a couple people in the chat want to try to reach out to you to help you, or you can just email me again. There's a couple people who want to link up with you. So if you don't want to share it here now, email me after this, and then the people who want to get in touch with you to help you with their process, things they got to do, which everything here is educational. Nobody's responsible for anything for the whole show. These are just opinions.
So he seems to have a pretty good grasp of it as far as the process goes, and he's getting better at it. I think this guy's going to do awesome.
Then hit me up and I'll link you guys together. So
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. I'm just looking for guidance. I'm all new to this. I'm trying to understand it all. But like the language barrier from me being foreign, and then the fear of it, the being alone, because none of my family members believe in it. It's like, oh, you're just crazy. I'm like, bro, this is the source, the way, a path. You just have to learn it, and I'm all alone in it. So that's why I try to reach out, and perhaps I overstand or I overcross some boundaries, like asking for too much information. I know you guys have certain.
If you want to have success, with negotiable instruments, you really should take the time. And the definition of take the time means probably take little bits and pieces and chew on it for a while, because reading the whole thing is just going to probably annihilate you. Annihilated me. I had to do little sections at a time over the course of like 3 months. You should read UCC Article 3 in its entirety. Slowly. Don't try to eat the whole thing, because it'll eat you. If you try to eat the whole thing in one bite, it'll eat you. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing research for over 7 years now, and UCC is pertinent, but like he's saying, it will consume you, and that's why I've taken my diligent time to make sure I understand this stuff. I'm tired. 94 cases now. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. Everything from here on out will be as easy as I can make it. And that means no fighting, not all the anger, not all the passion. You either do it or you don't. If you don't, I already know who I'm going to contact next. And they may not like you when it's done and over with. You cost them thousands of dollars through me when you could have saved that thousands of dollars just by doing your job. It's going to come to bite.
Yeah.
So, but you
And that's what this acceleration is. More and more people are catching on to how to bite them.
UCC3, truly, I'm not kidding. If you go through that slowly and look up every definition of every word, and just if you get overloaded, just take a break and come back.
Are you muted, brother?
Yes, I was, damn it. So, while we're talking about the UCC and the definitions and stuff, I had planned on doing the selective service review video tonight, but obviously we're not, but I'll do that tomorrow night. And then I had also planned on coming in tomorrow, either in the morning or early afternoon, to do a thing on finance and how it works, and wanted to go over UCC 1-201, the basic general definitions of the UCC itself. So watch for that, and we'll get back to it.
In a week, but just make sure you're very careful. Every single word. It's not very big. UCC3 is not really all that big. Right. If you take the time and you really, really read UCC3, you will run absolute circles around all the lawyers, everybody. I mean, UCC3 is so crystal freaking clear. It's
Yeah, that's why I like that term about the negotiable instruments, and it's a promise to pay if it's a note, it's an order if it's a draft. So you draft your letter of instruction, hand it over to the trustee, and he draws up the instrumentality to make it happen. That's his job. You make one thing happen, and that's the induction of his services as a trustee by qualifying as the benefactor. Here, I'm giving you something for the beneficiary. They're not supposed to violate either.
Unbelievable. Like, for example, I think it's 3-114. UCC 3-114 is just so clear. It's called contrary terms of instrument. It says right here, literally in black and white, if an instrument contains contradictory terms, typewritten terms prevail over printed terms, handwritten terms prevail over both, and words prevail over numbers.
So if you understand that, this is that overriding, the line item veto, where you can cross something out and overwrite it in your own writing. That's in the UCC. They cannot deny it.
So when they call you and they say, oh, you can't just hand write.
That's why when they hand you those applications, you can write on them. That's an amendment, and then you sign it, and that's an endorsement under the UCC or whatever, federal code, I guess it was, that says that's an amendment to an insurance policy. Everything is in insurance, insurity. It's a securitization.
The pen on the face of the instrument. Not only will I, but it's going to win over you in court all day long. I'll write all over it, man. Give me a pen. I don't need nothing, bro. Give me a pen. You don't need a stamp. A lot of people are like, oh, you need a stamp. They're all freaking out about stamps. The stamps, which come from, I forget, I think it's like 42 USC 328.5 and 0.6 talk about a stamp, and they say the stamp has to have these certain dimensions. It says right in that same section, when issued by banks, it needs to have the stamp. UCC3 is more generic than what are banks doing. The 328.5 and 328.6 CFR, that they're talking about what bank, it's actual bank terminology, right? UCC 3-114 is just generic. They're just like, if you have an instrument and you handwrite on it at all, anything you want, you could draw little drawings of little ducks, and also you could do anything you want. Whatever you put on the face of that instrument.
And just so you know, that's that code we talked about the other day is in relation to the Treasury stamp. It's got the 4 different forms on it, and then when you go to the stamp maker site, they've got a 5th form, and it's a reissue or new issue.
Words prevail over numbers, and handwritten prevails over everything. So it's like when you start reading UCC3, it's like, oh my God, it's like that's just one little piece, one little thing I just gave you.
And again, it's uniform throughout all jurisdictions. Like I said, you can just write this stuff on an envelope. There is no requirement, none, to use a stamp. That is a specific requirement that has been confused for officials, officers that already have an oath of office, and now they use a franking right or franking privilege. So they just placed it upon the civilians, those wonderful new deals.
When you read UCC3, now take what I just told you and times it by like 200. And that's where you wind up on the other side of UCC3. And what's funny is I write letters just literally copying, pasting out of UCC3 to lawyers, and they think they've called it word salad. They've called me all these. They literally.
See, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's all word salad. If you think I'm speaking word salad, that's fine. But again, I urge you to unlearn what you've learned and relearn the concise English, get a thesaurus and a King James version of the Bible and a college composition handbook so you can learn how to write these letters with the Word of God in contract form. All you're doing is coming in good faith, and that is the one of the first points of any contract. If you want equity, you must bring equity. They're supposed to be equitable. And if you're not bringing good faith, or if somebody else points something out that might violate your rights and they don't act upon it, then they're acting in bad faith. Again, you should just come on up and panel and discuss it, because I've already showed several things where I've just abated them on the envelope and never heard back from them, or wrote a nice little letter accepting for the zero value in the document because they had all these kinds of numbers and not one single dollar sign or mention of money or anything. It's been 3 years. They tried to deny my companion in bad faith, and I corrected it and put the good faith in there on our side. Now prove you operated in good faith, because you evidently can't operate in good faith if you don't know what to put in the instrument. You know, the things that qualify the value.
I don't think they know what the definition of word salad is.
No, and neither does G, evidently.
Yeah, because word salad means you're stringing words together that make no comprehensive sense. In a structure that doesn't make any sense.
Show proof this actually works. What kind of proof do you want, brother? You want it to come from a court? Is that your daddy? You won't accept the proof that I put out there and been putting out there for 7 years. I told you people, I've been doing private communications, and many of them, I show them. I reprint them right on my Facebook page and my other social sites. Plus, I've showed them many times on video here. See, all my videos here started out for the first 5 years was all Facebook Lives. I did everything from Facebook, and then I reposted it to YouTube. And now I've been doing streams for the last year and a half. So everything I've got, everything I've done and researched, I always show the sources, and I always show my firsthand evidence. If you don't like it, that's fine. And remember again, folks, that supposed homemade stamp, it's actually a prepaid postage in DC if you want to be truly accurate about it. I call it a homemade stamp because that's truly what it is in form. Notice that's somebody else's stamp that came to me, went through the Postal Service, and never got canceled. It has a barcode on it that you can go down to this day and have the Postal Service verify that it is a valid instrument that went through the mail as a foreign dispatch. If that isn't evidence enough, if that isn't proof enough, then you get it where you think you need to get it in your form, because evidently the truth isn't good enough for you.
It's like, even if they wanted to learn UCC3, it would take them more than the month they have to respond to your complaint to learn UCC3. And their own defensive mechanisms are so bad with all these lawyers that they would never allow themselves to ever learn UCC3. So when you really learn UCC3, you just run in and you just rush all these people, and they just, I'm telling you, they just don't stand a effing chance. They just don't. They just don't.
When you read and learn, remember, these books, these codes are their backbone.
Yeah.
Okay. And they can't just jump.
Again, G, in case you didn't just hear me, name one person who has dispatched debt. You're fucking looking at him. In case you didn't hear me, and I didn't do it through any court. I didn't even do it through any other civil process other than correcting the language on the document by showing them that the language they gave me was nothing but pure babble and had zero value. You can go back and look through my videos and find it. You can go back through my Facebook page and see it as in its very letter form, duplicate. So yes, I
actually
have been
did.
showing. Yeah,
I went back
been,
and looked at your videos, and that's what convinced me that it was actually working for other people. And I've seen some other people that have shown evidence as well. So
yeah,
it's in the books.
Well, just like we started out with the review of these guys talking about the government publishing office style manual. You have to know what the fuck you're talking about, pure and simple. Don't know what else to tell you, guy.
Up and change them overnight. Like, it has to go through a whole big process to change anything. So when you learn to speak their language,
so while you're looking for the solution in everybody else, waiting for somebody else to prove to you that it can be done, you still don't know how to do it because you're still not looking in the right place. And that's yourself. You're the one that's in error. You're the one that's been a bitch ass slave all your life. You're the one that's been a fool all your life. And listen, I'm not saying that because I wasn't there myself first.
Catch them one of them by the tail, they're screwed, because
they don't even know their own language.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing too. Is they might challenge you on something. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, really? That's why it says here, subsection this of this and this, and you got them all day.
They don't. I'm telling you, they don't have a clue.
A lot of them don't even know the Constitution. Surprisingly,
a lot of them don't even know. The funniest thing, and you want to really put these guys on their back foot, especially lawyers. And you want to just right out the gate, like, it's
one time, Wiz, over $20. No, it was one letter. So that was the one-time part. After these medical associates got together and made a claim over the years of non-payments because she's not required to. And we tried to tell them that. And they insisted then, after $1,800 and some odd dollars of bills, that they were going to stop giving her benefit while being all-knowing trustees. Every last one of them admitted they were a public servant of the public trust, being medical associates. Health and Human Services, the very thing that starts it all. They damn well better know they're the trustee. And again, one more little clue, little bomb here. You know, when they set me up for a competency test and I went to the Mental Health Institute and they signed me up for 30 days to stay, the doctor did that competency test and discharged me superseding the administrative court's orders. Who do you think has more power? Dumbasses.
Not even a hello. You just want to give them like the biggest haymaker of their life. You ask them, hey, I'm curious. Is a Federal Reserve note a negotiable instrument? That's like hitting them with a crowbar. It's like Half-Life 2. It's like hitting them with a freaking crowbar right across their skull. Because they think that they're just so, they're faced with this question where the question is so funny, because if they start thinking about it and they go to themselves, they think in their head, let's say you go to a securities attorney and you say, is a Federal Reserve note a negotiable instrument? They suddenly realize when they're processing that question that they don't know. And then they suddenly realize that if they let you.
Bye, G.
I think these people are just scared. The deception has been in everything, and I don't know why they don't understand that the deception includes with the law and what is legal and what the system is. Why is it any different than any other conspiracy that you believe in or have researched and found to be, yeah, it's there. It's the same thing.
They'd want to believe all the drama. Listen to this, folks. If you're going to sit there and keep believing all the drama conspiracies, go ahead. Go ahead. But the truth conspiracies to actually help you out of your own damn enslavement, don't believe them. Don't believe me. Don't believe your mother. Don't believe the government. Do your goddamn research so you know, because that's who needs to know. And you're not going to know by me. That's why I hate. It's just despicable to sit there and ask me for me to prove to you when, first of all, I can explain it to you, but I can't comprehend it for you. Second of all, how many times am I going to have to tell you, don't fucking believe me, do your research? So when you sit there and consistently question me, it tells me you didn't fucking hear me. Shut the fuck up and go do your research instead of coming here with stupid questions.
Well, and it is a way to free yourself, but I don't see it as free. It takes work to unslave yourself.
Absolutely. I was so upset at myself more than anybody else when my mom looked at me and said, Keith, the police are your authority. Because they saw me as the criminal. My own parents saw me as the criminal more than they saw me as a child of God, which I thought and fully believed they had believed in my entire prior life. It was just astounding. Brought me up in church and everything. Sickening.
They just never got it, though, Wiz. They just didn't get it.
They still don't get it.
No. There's lots of people that are going to never get
this.
They
look like the biggest...
There comes a point in time when I don't care who you are. If you can't use reason and logic, I don't need you, don't want you around. Doesn't mean I don't love you, but I certainly don't need you, and I don't want you around. This is why I say I don't want you. You don't want to be my friend. I am harsh, and I know it. Don't know what else to tell you.
You remind me of a drill sergeant. I love it.
Could be.
Fool and idiot on the entire face of the entire planet ever since the dawn of all mankind. And so what they do is they just short circuit and they just freak out. And it's absolutely hilarious. It's the fun. It's like getting bit by a black mamba snake and their nervous system's going, this is what they do. That's basically the reaction that you get. And it's the most amazing reaction, because you take someone who's a professional securities attorney of 20 years, you ask them one question and it's like they just hit the ground. And it's unbelievable. And it's just because I read UCC 3. That's it.
And again, that's part of the problem, folks, is these people are just doing their job. They're not educating themselves on what that fucking job is. They're just listening to somebody else tell them, not doing their research, and therefore they're living their whole fucking life on a belief system that has no value.
Well, all they're doing is operating on policy and procedure. I saw it in the medical field. There's no thinking involved. It's not about thinking. It's about just following the algorithm and the policy and procedures. You don't need to think. And that's what got me to remove myself from that system, because I was causing trouble because I was thinking too much and getting in trouble for that. They don't want you to.
Exactly. That's what happened to me in school. You know, when you start thinking about things and you start calling the teacher a liar because they just stood there and said that Columbus discovered America. I knew that was false in one sense or another because there was already people there. Didn't they discover it? If anybody, how come there wasn't given credit to them for discovering it?
Because they're not people, you know that.
Well, no, it was a mix of people that supposedly crossed some Bering Strait.
Yeah, well, they didn't
Well,
want us to see them as people.
well, even then, think deeper. Even then, did the people discover the land, or are we part of the land like the natives said?
Yeah, and you can't sell it, and you don't own it.
Exactly.
That's all I did.
Yep. I personally like Trinzi versus Pagliaro. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to attorneys, you know, as
What's that
hearsay, you know, or say basically says it's hearsay. You know, as the attorney can't enter anything on the record because they weren't there for the particular situation. So it.
Travis says, I need to buckle down and figure out how to create a trust. I'm going to make it real simple, folks. It's a matter of development. Your first thing is certificate of trust, which is an expression of a trust that you created. That's all it's stating, is that the trust is created. If you need documentation, they will be up for private viewing. It's a developmental thing. I am establishing my trust, and it is a learning process, and I have the right to establish the trust in development. Education is key. That's why we work on education. That's why education and knowledge is the true benefit. I can't stress that enough.
There is a situation where, let's say, you owe Bank of Shyster or something like that.
So you can write up a simple certificate of trust establishing the trust with its elements. You got to name the trustee and the grantor and the trustee and a few other things, and then you know, look it up in your state. They'll tell you certificate of trust, state of Florida, whatever, and they'll tell you the parameters for a certificate of trust in that state. And then you can just make a special deposit with your local banker expressing that trust to open up a trust account, and then go forth from there to establish the funding. Just like any developing nation.
You know, for informational purposes and educational purposes only, by the way. Yes. But let's say if that's the case, and you do an instrument, and they hire an attorney, because you know they can't come after you by themselves. They have to basically hire an attorney to do so, and they come after you. You had no correspondence directly with that attorney. He did not receive the instrument, so basically that is a third party handling the situation, where she has no standing and can't really comment on it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times they throw these attorneys out there in the wind with these court cases, and they don't even give them the full information. They might sell them the information to collect the debt, because a lot of times the attorneys are just debt collectors for the most.
Absolutely. And again, it's not about debt collecting. It's about cancellation of debt in all cases, because you don't have a way to pay except to obtain those such things, money, which is a debt instrument, property, labor, or services on credit.
For the firm, they'll buy the debt or whatever, or they'll buy the information for like $10, and they'll come after you for like $1,000 or something, like however much they say, quote unquote, you owe. But they had no correspondence back and forth with you previous to them telling you there's going to be a legal action. So they had no.
And that's a violation of 15 U.S.C. 1692C in the consent to communicate. Also, if they buy the debt, then you are discharged of that debt. These are things that are known, and these lawyers are just doing everything they can to collect. That's it. They have no authority to do so, though. You, according to Texas Rules of Civil Procedure 12, have to have a board of directors in order to hire an attorney to even defend. So if you don't have that, then there is a situation where there is an inconsistency that creates an impossibility. You cannot hire an attorney to represent you. You can hire an attorney to file documents for you, but you cannot hire an attorney to represent you.
No leg to stand on. So Trinzi versus Pagliaro shuts them down. They hate it. They completely hate it. Yeah, it's gorgeous. You know, it's literally been times where, you know, I've said it, and then the attorney just sits there and puts his head down. Like the judge has to, you know,
be able to submit. And only the witness is supposed to be able to submit information too, not them. So
and then on top of that too, the bank is not actually in the court, so the bank is a failure to appear. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good
point. So many
facts.
So many holes. And if you just know what to look for, man, there's so many ways to yank the rug from underneath him. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, question. So because, sorry to interrupt.
So the address for the trust, you can go ahead and give them that street address, but you put it the all caps name or the trust name, and then care of, and then the trustee's name, and then the street address, and then the city state zip with the zip in square brackets, and then United States of America. So now you have a foreign address that is being sent to. It's known as a foreign private trust, and it's going to care of the trustee.
By the way, so because the first mortgage company sold it to the collective mortgage company, is this new contract void by?
I don't know. I've heard a lot of this kind of stuff. I don't really care. The bottom line is that, you know, the reason why the first contract even existed in the first place is because you put a blank endorsement on the original promissory note rather than a special endorsement. So
a blank one you sign in the like closing section, like closing
on the signature line. Signature and endorsement mean the same thing. You aren't actually signing anything. You're actually endorsing a financial instrument. Well, anything. I mean, if you close on a mortgage, they're going to have you sign what? 10, 12, 15 times. Those are all endorsements. Everything's an endorsement. Okay. So when you endorse with a blank endorsement, which means the endorsement does not state a payee, which comes right out of UCC 3, what happens is you're releasing that promissory note with no conditions.
And that's, Iman says attorneys are debt collectors ad litem. That's because everybody's in custody. There's a guardianship. That's what the United States citizenship is. There's a minor account in guardianship. It's in the foreign property custodian's possession. And so the custodianship is for minors, and the ad litem attorney is for such minors and incompetence. So again, they're recognizing that you're incompetent. Okay? Admit it. I'm just an idiot. I'm incompetent. How can you charge an incompetent? It's that simple. That's another basis for defeating all of this stuff. The idiot. In case you don't ever remember me talking about that, that is one of my favorites. I might just be an idiot. You just never know. In case you didn't get what I just said there, maybe go back and rewind it. You just never know. I may be an idiot.
Attached, payable to the bearer. So it's like writing a blank check. And then what happens is the banking institution, what they do is they take that blank endorsed instrument, and then they place what's called a special endorsement on that instrument. And then as per 12 U.S.C. 412 application for notes, they go to the Federal Reserve and they swap that special endorsed instrument for Federal Reserve notes, and then they hand you back your own money, and then they call it a loan, and that's how, quote, money is created. Now, you can put a special endorsement on the original promissory note yourself. You don't need a stamp, because a stamp is only required for when presented by banks. UCC 3-114 says that you can handwrite on the instrument. You can handwrite the special endorsement, and when you handwrite the special endorsement and you give it to the credit bureau or the banking institution or the car lot or whatever it is, they're going to freak out. They're going to say we can't process the way it is, and they're going to kick you off the property. Again, it comes down to litigation, because the thing is that what is the definition of acceptance? Acceptance by delivery. If you've delivered that promissory
Mhm.
note, meaning handed it to them, and they physically took
Muted, brother.
No, I'm just getting to another page. What he's talking about here is in that definition section I'm going to do in the video tomorrow afternoon or so. Delivery. With respect to an instrument, document of title. Notice I just put in there, you're not going to, it's not the grantor that you're going to put at the top. It's the trust. And that's in all caps. That's a title. So now we're looking at a document of title or chattel paper means voluntary transfer of possession. Okay? That voluntary transfer of possession is coming from that benefactor because he's voluntarily giving to the beneficiary. Who's the beneficiary? The record. So we'll go over that again some more tomorrow.
the definition of tender is an unconditional offer. So people say tender. So if I have the promissory note here and it's on a special endorsement and I go like this and there's no condition attached, I'm actually tendering, and then when they reach out and grab it, that's now delivery.
Yep.
So once you have delivered it, by definition, delivery and acceptance are the same definition.
And that's the same with recording. Once you put something in that blue post office box, that's an automatic acceptance point. The only time they'll return it is if it doesn't have the proper postage on it. So when you drop a private dispatch article with a prepaid postage and DC on there, whether it's a homemade stamp form or handwritten, it's acceptance. So long as it follows the law. Just because they can't interpret the law doesn't mean that they can act in good faith. Or again, remember that preamble to the Constitution talks about their main duty being communicating with the people of the world. If they can't communicate according to their own laws, rules, and regulations, then who the fuck are they? And why do they have that fucking job? I'm just doing my job. No, you're not.
So once you have delivered it, you can just walk out, because the thing is that they don't have a choice. And that's where litigation comes in. Once they've received that special endorsed instrument.
No, the grantor is not the all caps name. The all caps name is the title. Anything in all caps is a title. It is not a name. The grantor's name would be the one granting and giving once it's delivered to a grantee, who then can make a trust as trustor and assign a trustee.
And they freak out and they refuse to process it. Or if they don't even notice that you gave a special endorsement, which is often what happens, they'll give you the car, and then a month.
Hey, thanks, brother. We got Mr. Lovett in the chat here. Appreciate it. I'm going to drop the link in case you want to come up. We're going to end it here soon, but we'll go as long as you want to go, brother. So if you don't mind jumping up, I'd appreciate it. But we love the information, like I've been telling everybody. Top of the line information and researcher from James C. Lovett. In depth, and love the information. Been following along, taking notes, and it all correlates. Like you guys who were talking here in this stream, pretty much everything is uniform. And that's what the UCC says. UCC 1-301, I think. I can't remember exactly which one it is. But it's the law shall be construed to be uniform throughout all jurisdictions. And the Most High is the jurisdiction that everything trickles down from. So thanks for the approval. Appreciate it. Hope you have a blessed night, brother.
Later, you'll get a call from the financial institution stating that there's something wrong with the way that you signed your documents, and we would like you to come in and re-sign the documents.
Re-sign it. I haven't no friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you say,
and this goes to that opposing dynamic that I've been talking about with the documentation that you've already filled out. You can go back and rescind. You can go back in and change. That's an option. And that's what the bank is trying to use as a requirement. You can't even require anybody to sign in the first place. It's still a voluntary thing, just like the delivery. It's a voluntary transfer of possession.
Back in.
You say, oh, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong with my documents. And I mean, technically, this could possibly, I mean, I'm a bit emotionally unstable. This could be considered harassment. Not sure. So why don't you write me something, write me a letter, tell me exactly what the problem is, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to put anything in writing, because then at that point, now you're going to litigate. You're going to litigate for harassment. You're going to litigate for fraud. You know what I mean? So it's like when you understand how these things work, you can walk into, a nice ass place and get yourself a nice brand new C8 Corvette and walk out.
And another thing, as it relates to that 18 U.S.C. 1589 forced labor, when we're dealing with these commercial codes and we're operating from the trust side and entering these documents for specific trust activities, that's that 18 U.S.C. 1589. If they act in good or bad faith and force us into committing to a litigation of some sort, that's that forced labor. That's the penalty for bad faith. You have a job as a public servant in a public trust. If you can't recognize that simple principle, that you are not the all-knowing, that there is a power greater than you that granted you those powers of a trustee, not necessarily even me, but that there is in fact something greater than you, and you don't do your research with them to find out if what somebody else is saying is true to make sure your ass is covered, then you're operating in bad faith under the premise that I'm just doing my job and he told me to do it. You think he's going to get thrown under the bus, or do you think he's going to throw you under the bus? See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not going to mess with the trustees as they play their games. I'm going to go to their authority if they want to act in bad faith. I'm not going to litigate. I'm going to the international venue with the treaties. It's no longer a contract situation that involves you as a contract officer. I've now gone above your head. That's the only thing I see.
Out, and there's nothing they can do. If they process those documents and they don't notice that special endorsement, that car's yours.
So you would let them run your credit first to get that application filed, and then you can claim the process, or you can just go in there from the beginning, like I want to speak to the CEO.
And understand, folks, what he's talking about here isn't that you're being deceitful or anything. When you know this stuff and you fill out that documentation and you know that they're supposed to act on it accordingly and they don't, like I said, they're the ones that are acting in bad faith because they're not making sure. They're just going on an assumption, presumption, or an opinion of somebody else telling them to do it. Otherwise, they'd have done their research because their own ass is on the line.
This is where things get a little complicated, because I looked everywhere, all over the internet, for what is the definition of the word cash, right? And I searched forever and I could never find a decent definition. Then I went and read all of UCC3. UCC3 does not tell you the definition of the word cash, but reading UCC3, I was finally able to figure out what the definition of the word cash is. Definition of the word cash is a physical negotiable instrument of which is endorsed payable to the bearer.
So that means a blank piece of paper that you can put those terms on and sign it accordingly. That is cash. Even a blank piece of paper, I'm sure this guy will agree. It's a negotiable instrument. Isn't a blank piece of paper just a negotiable instrument without the terms and conditions on it yet, which you can write them on it? Again, according to the UCC, it does not have to have anything on it to begin with. You can write it on there.
meaning whoever holds the instrument holds the value payable to the bearer, payable to you as the one who's bearing the instrument, right?
So when they sent me that true bill of 8 or 9 pages with zero value, it had zero cash value, and I gave it back to them as zero cash value.
So when you have the credit application and you endorse the credit application with a special endorsement, the credit application itself is converted into cash. So it's a credit deal up until you endorse the credit application, and then it becomes a cash deal. The problem is you can't explain any of this to anyone because they think you're totally, I mean, completely insane. They're like calling the paddy wagons to come have you, like, you know, taken away by the freaking psychiatrists. I mean, they think you're just, they think you're just totally just gone. They think you're just you're a walking loony bin. That's the issue.
And then you would endorse it normally like you would with the bill of exchange.
And that is so far off base that, again, these people that are just doing their job and doing what somebody else tell them, while their ass is on the line, is just stupidity. And yet they look at us as if though we're the stupid ones. We're insane. It's time
I want to be the insane one. I want to be insane. This world is so. I'll stick with insanity. I'm okay with being called crazy. Crazy is a good thing anymore.
Yes. Well, I can only give all glory to God. I hope I can. I hope I'm educating people. There are many out there that would say otherwise. Part of Dharma and life purpose, I mean, that is self-evident, but how well you relay the information and draw correlations is amazing. Again, I can only give all glory to God and hope that is what is actually happening. When one places X on paper for someone to sign next to it, they aren't asking to authenticate or authorize a debt. No, they're not. Now, was in a pickle thanks to a few good men, not so much anymore. All right. When one places an X on paper for someone to sign next to it, they aren't asking one to authenticate or authorize a debt by endorsement. And again, that brings up that last word you used there, endorsement. Again, there's endorsement and endorsement. And when you understand the context of endorsement and endorsement distinctly being different, endorsement means much more like you are giving an appraisal. You're giving a sentiment, an intangible value. You endorse Donald Trump for presidency. You do so through a vote. That's how you endorse. You give him your vote. Okay? When you endorse something, IN, that's a qualified handwritten signature of what is endorsed in the document. In other words, it's what you're promoting in the document is the endorsement, and then the endorsement is the signature on the instrument. So you're going to endorse the person named in the instrument as the person signing on the instrument in endorsement form. So anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and shit, they might still be going. Let's see. Oh yeah, they're still going. Nope, it's over. It's over. Okay, so let me we're done with that for tonight. And I am dropping the link to that video in the chat so everybody can go over and check out that full video. And with that, we're done for tonight. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow sometime on the UCC 1-201 general definitions, along with some information from the Postal Service as it relates to that nice P.S. form 6387 for a postal money order. money order. It's in the form of an order. And so when they deny it, it's in bad faith. There are conversions on it, and we're going to speak about those conversions. In the meantime, I'll get that posted sometime tonight, and we are done. So anything you've got to say on the way out, Damsel?
No, just that I appreciate all the effort you've been putting in, and I've noticed, man. I pay attention too. So I appreciate you actually paying attention to my little chat down there and getting on this, because it was so good. I was watching it before you started, and I was like, oh man, this is good stuff. So thank you. I appreciate you doing that.
Anytime, anytime. And again, all glory goes to him, and I appreciate you bringing that up. It certainly was a change for once. Like I said, I love both those guys, and I'll have to get to know that A6 guy or whatever his name is, and check him out as well. He seems to be kind of knowledgeable. And that's what we're talking about, folks, is connecting together so that we can bring remedy and progressive growth. That's that acceleration that I'm seeing, and I hope you will see it soon as well. In the meantime, I'll try to get that stuff up for the video tomorrow. It's 11 o'clock now. Yeah, I'll probably do it around 10 o'clock. I'll probably do it about 10 o'clock in the morning, Central Standard Time. Thank you very much, Rocky Shepherd. Appreciate that. You know, Fuzzy, one of these days, that's going to be one of the things I'm going to do. You know, we've been without one of those such automobiles for a number of years now. And so my travels, though I've been able to attain them here and there, have been mostly confined to a bike or my feet or the local bus. So one of these days, we get all this set up. I'm working on the birth certificates and DBA and getting that set up, the trust and everything set up with a local bank. I haven't had a bank account in 7 years. So it's a matter of putting all this information together. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got my certificate of trust drawn up and ready to present to the bank, and I just need the other documentation to support it and fund everything. So once that's done, that'll be one of the first things I'm going to get out and do, and we'll show you how it works. So in the meantime, remember, folks, I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me. So may God bless you, and have a good night. Remember, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And there's a PayPal button down below for anybody that wants to share some love. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Still there, Keith?